This morning we turn to the Old Testament, to the book of 1 Samuel. If you are following along in your Bible, it is close to the front of the Bible. You go Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, and right after Ruth you're going to find 1 Samuel. Or you're going to be able to follow on the screen. And as we open the passage, I think of that influence that as Jonathan had, as later in the Bible we learn about David, those influences of the men in our lives. And as I think about that, and I think about Father's Day today, the calling really is for all of us. But I'm thankful for these men who led by faith. Read with me God's Word. One day Jonathan, son of Saul, said to his young armor-bearer, "Come, let us go over to the Philistines' outpost on the other side." But he did not tell his father. Saul was staying on the outskirts of Gabaa, underneath a pomegranate tree in Migron. With him were about 600 men, among whom was Ahijah, who was wearing the ephod. He was the son of Ichabod's brother, Achibu, son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, the Lord's priest in Shiloh. No one was aware that Jonathan had left. On each side of the path that Jonathan intended to cross to reach the Philistine outpost was a cliff. One was called Bezazeh, and the other Seneh. One cliff stood to the north toward Michmash, the other to the south toward Gabaa. Jonathan said to his young armor-bearer, "Come, let us go over to the outpost of those uncircumcised men. Perhaps the Lord will act in our behalf. Nothing can hinder the Lord from saving, whether by many or by few." "Do all that you have in mind," his armor-bearer said. "Go ahead. I am with you, heart and soul." Jonathan said, "Come on then. We will cross over toward them and let them see us. If they say to us, 'Wait there until we come to you,' we will stay where we are and not go up to them. But if they say, 'Come up to us,' we will climb up, because that will be our sign that the Lord has given them into our hands." So both of them showed themselves to the Philistines' outpost. "Look," said the Philistines, "the Hebrews are crawling out of holes they are hiding in." The men of the outpost shouted to Jonathan, his armor-bearer, "Come up to us, and we'll teach you a lesson." So Jonathan said to his armor-bearer, "Climb up after me. The Lord has given them into the hand of Israel." Jonathan climbed up, using his hands and feet, with his armor-bearer right behind him. The Philistines fell before Jonathan, and his armor-bearer followed and killed behind him. In that first attack, Jonathan and his armor-bearer killed some 20 men in an acre of about half an acre. Then panic struck the whole army, those in the camp and the field, and those in the outposts and raiding parties, and the ground shook. It was a panic sent by God. Saul's lookout at Gabaa and Benjamin saw the army melting away in all directions. Then Saul said to the men who were with him, "Muster the forces and see who has left us." When they did, it was Jonathan and his armor-bearer who were not there. Saul said to Ahijah, "Bring the ark of God." At that time, it was still with the Israelites. While Saul was talking to the priests, the tumult in the Philistine camp increased more and more. So Saul said to the priests, "Withdraw your hand." Then Saul and all his men assembled and went into battle. They found the Philistines in total confusion, striking each other with their swords. Those Hebrews who had previously been with the Philistines and had gone up with them to the camp went over to the Israelites who were with Saul and Jonathan. When all the Israelites who had hidden in the hill country of Ephraim heard that the Philistines were on the run, they joined in hot pursuit. So on that day, the Lord saved Israel, and the battle moved beyond Beth-aven. I want to tell you this morning a story about a guy named Yak. Yak is probably one of the most faithful, loyal, industrious, God-filled men that I know. Yak is one of these guys who, if you needed something, he would do it. He is the guy who reaches out even when you don't call him. When he moved away, whenever he was in the area, Yak would make sure that he called you and wouldn't take no as an excuse from being able to get together. He always wanted to pray for you. He always asked how you were doing with God. In fact, Yak so evidently heard the call of God that he picked up his family, his large family, and he moved out to the boonies. He moved out to rural Saskatchewan, in the middle of nowhere, to follow God and to take up a direction of leading a camp ministry there. Yak had a profound influence, on those to whom he knew, to those to whom he built a story with. There's something like that in the story of Jonathan. Jonathan has extraordinary faith, extraordinary courage, a deep and abiding trust in God, because the scenario before him is hopeless. They are outnumbered. His father, because of his own pride, wanted to go into the Philistines, and they, in all likelihood, were going to lose. That's the scenario. What do you do when the odds are against you? What do you do when there's nothing that you can do? When there's nothing you feel you can do? More often than not, it's easier to do nothing, right? To just let things go by the side. Saul has already made an offering. His offering wasn't right, it wasn't true, it wasn't pure. He, in no way, means, shape, or form, should have even have made the offering. Samuel has already delivered the verdict that the kingship would leave his hands. Neither he nor Jonathan or anyone in his house was going to become or be king. We know that's going to be David, right? But he's feeling pretty confident. He has Ahijah with him. He's got a priest in his back pocket. But catch this. Who is Ahijah? Ahijah has the handprint and the lineage of Ichabod, the son born to Hophni and Phinehas, whose father was Eli, who was the priest, whose name means no glory, or the glory of the Lord has departed. So the kingship is being taken away. The priest that he has with him is part of a lineage where the glory of God was no longer with him. So Saul goes into this battle, and the presence of God wasn't with him. It's here that Jonathan says these words: "Let us go over to the garrison of the uncircumcised. It may be, just maybe, the Lord will be with us." There's no assurance. There's no guarantee. But catch what Jonathan says. Nothing can stop God if he's in this plan to defeat the Philistines. Whether we have a large army or whether we have a small army, none of that really matters. And Jonathan, he asks for a sign. It's not all that common, isn't it? Remember this story? "Lord, if this is to be your will, may the fleece be wet and the grass be dry." And it happens. "Lord, forgive me, but let me ask one more time. But this time, can the grass be wet and the fleece be dry?" Why does Jonathan do that? Ask for a sign. Because he wants to be sure that if he's going to go to battle, if he's going to advance the cause of God, that God is a part of it. And so he says, Lord, if they say to me, come up, I'll go. Because I know that just like that, you can cause this battle to be over and we will be victorious. But Saul, he's so proudful that not only does he make this offering, and he says, go assemble the Ark of the Covenant and let it go before us to be a sign that God is with us. But Jonathan, what does he do? Catch it. This is important. He goes away privately and nobody notices that he's gone because he wants this to be about the story of God. Maybe you remember a movie called Braveheart. It is the story of Scotland's struggle for independence. Robert the Bruce is betrayed by William Wallace, but Sir Robert would eventually lead them out of Scotland to freedom, and he would become king. Before his death, he asked that his heart be taken out and that it would be preserved, and he would go on a battle with a loyal knight. So James Douglas has a heart of the king put around his neck. And as he goes into battle against the Moors who outnumbered them, it was a hard battle. And when he was surrounded by all of them and everything seemed hopeless, he took off the heart and he threw it into the oncoming man. And he said, for the king! I will live or die for the king. In an unmistakable statement of loyalty and commitment. I think of that story. I think of Jonathan's story. And it begs a question this morning, is how do you and I want to be remembered? Really, the question could be is, what is the legacy of the story of our faith? For Saul, it's all about me. It was nothing about the glory of God. For Jonathan, I want to be where God is at work. Many of us who are not farther along in life don't often think about that, but maybe this passage challenges us to think about that. What does our life say about faith, about following God, of stepping out and making a difference for Him? What are a few quick lessons that we can learn from our passage this morning? The first one is this. Life is best knowing that nothing can stop God. One day, Jonathan says in verse 1 to 4, let us go up and let us look, or let us seek, or let us find God. You see, he knew that though God is in all places at all times, he wasn't necessarily in the caves where his father in Israel was hiding. He knew the best place to look for God, how God was working, was to be on the field where things were happening. And so Jonathan steps into the battlefield, or what would be the battlefield. And he knew that he needed to go up the mountain. And Jonathan's story and our story come together as that God invites you and I, when you see God working, to move into action. I think of that story of Abraham, how God was going to give him the children as numerous as the stars. But in order to do that, he needed to be faithful and to leave the land and to move on to the place where God could fulfill that plan. Moses needed to move in the field by that burning bush into Egypt to fulfill that plan that God had for him. To the early church and for us today, in Matthew 28, it's to go into the world and make disciples of all nations, teaching them and baptizing them and inviting them to believe everything that God has to say. It's stepping out in faith. One day, a little girl was given some money by her dad. And she went to the dollar store and she picked up a necklace. Man, it was the most beautiful dollar store necklace that you could ever imagine. And she brought it home and she wore it to bed. She wore it in the bath. She didn't take that necklace off ever. Well, one night, her dad said to her, "Honey, I love you." She goes, "I love you too, Daddy. Will you give me your necklace?" "No, Daddy, it's my necklace. It's my necklace. Don't ask for my necklace." And she held on to it so tightly. About a week later, it was bedtime again, and she said, "I love you, Daddy." He said, "I love you, baby. Will you give me your necklace?" She began to cry. "No, Dad." A week later, she was getting ready for bed. Daddy said, "I love you, baby." She goes, "I love you, Daddy." He said, "Honey, will you give me your necklace?" She took off her necklace, tears rolling down her face. "Daddy, I love my necklace, but I love you even more." And she handed her dad the necklace, which he opened the box. And inside was not a dollar store necklace, but it was a real pearl necklace. You see, he'd been waiting for 3 weeks to give her that necklace. All he was asking is that she would trust him enough to know what's best for her. That story is the story of our lives. That God is waiting to do in your life and add to your life more than you could ever ask or imagine. His question for you is the same question to the little girl. Do you love me enough to trust me to do what's best? The second thing our passage tells us is that nothing can stop God. I think when you and I step out in faith and trust God to what God will do. I want you to think this morning very quickly to a number of stories in the Bible. Think of the wedding in Cana, where they asked Jesus, which is his first miracle, to make some wine. Store for you. Because here's the lesson. Nothing wanted him to be. Jonathan wanted to step out in faith. The Lord has given them into our hands. I love that faith that God has in our story this morning as well. And say, Lord, whatever your plan is, I'm in.